I'm watching the rise. And I wouldn't say I'm shocked cause I'm hardly surprised. This one's for the ride. This one's for who knew I'd make it, just needed some time. This one's for my wife. Could've left 1,000 times just about my side.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Randy Kaye, and I'm the host of the Caught Up Podcast. Today we have Amelia Streuber. She is a 2025 right-handed pitcher and outfielder from Tucson, Arizona. Recently signed with Oregon State University. Amelia, it's always great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to catch up.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, what an interesting week, right? Well, or at least last couple of days.
For sure.
Right? How has that been? Tell me a little bit about like what the last couple of days has been like for you.
Yeah, so I got like another message on Twitter. I've gotten a couple over the past year or so asking for advice on how I got recruited, like what I did that worked and what didn't work. So I would kind of just send them like a bulleted list every time, like just simplify it. But I was just like, maybe I'll just make a post out of it, because I never see anybody talk about it, what really works for them and what doesn't, They just say like, oh yeah, I go to camps and I did social media, I emailed a couple of times and that was it. But there's so many other things that go on behind the scenes that you really like. Everyone's different, but you have to put in the work for sure.
So it looked really detailed and put together really well. I mean, how much thought went into this? Did you like lay it out and plan it? I mean, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, we have a whiteboard. So I wrote some things down. I had my dad help me a little bit, on how I should format it or specific things I should mention, because he went through it all with me too. He was on all the plane flights. He's the one that made it possible. So we kind of just went through it, sat down as a family, listed some things. I thought it would be cool to do it over the course of time, and I just wanted to help out like other people and kind of like kill all the birds with one stone, I guess, essentially, and just try to help whoever I could. And so lots of thought and worked out, I guess.
Yeah, it's working out. I mean, like I said, your phone had to just be going crazy all day, every day, right? And just
still is.
I bet. And so like when when you talk about you and your dad kind of doing this together, I mean, did you have a plan coming into getting recruited? Did you kind of like lay some things out and say, here's the schools that I feel like you laid out some plans as far as schools go, but like, anything beyond that?
No, not really. I sat down with him and we made a list of like things that I thought were reachable and kind of cast a broad net for emailing at least. I'll post about that eventually later. I think that's my next post. But yeah, nothing besides that. The Twitter thing was actually kind of my mom's idea. Cause she's all into like social media and like Facebook and all that stuff. I like usually am not, but now I guess I am. So, she said that it might be good to start posting on something like Twitter or like YouTube or make videos to email to coaches. And I think that actually helped me more than anything. So we kind of just winged it.
Hey,
tried to follow what other people were doing,
Right.
It worked out. So,
well, what I love about your story so far is that, I always tell players that, and this just doesn't go for sports, but it goes for everything, right? You can learn from other people's mistakes. And I think I don't know if you called any of them, any part of your journey a mistake, but you can learn from people's mistakes. The great thing about that, or learn from mistakes and failure. But the great thing about that is it doesn't always have to be yours. Like it can be somebody else's. It's like, if you see, if you touch a hot stove, you're probably not going to do that again because you learn from that pain and that failure or that, that lesson. But like if you saw somebody else, it'd be better if you saw somebody else touch it. And then you go, oh, wait, that looked like it hurt, right? So I'm not going to do that. So that's what I love about your story so far is it seems like, I went through and I looked at a bunch of the responses and people just seem very appreciative that you took the time, number one, to put it together. But then there's a whole nother level of like putting yourself out there to put it out. And I think to me, that's what has always stood out about you to me is just seeing your videos of, at your pitching lesson or doing box jumps, or you've pulled in some teammates and you guys are, getting lunch and working out. Like, those are the things that along with your talent, because there's no denying that you have talent, but the other pieces that really stand out to colleges, that looks like you love the grind and that you love what you do. And so tell me about like what it's been like to put yourself out there and what it took for you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, from a young age, I liked softball. I liked to play, but I didn't really even think about like, oh, I want to do this in college. And then I guess like in 8th grade, I kind of started going to camps, which I think is a little too young. Personally, I wouldn't do that again, as you said. Um, but I just once, I think it was actually more so after I got committed where I really fell in love with like working out and eating right and like kind of pushing myself and posting that kind of stuff, just because getting committed is the first step,
Mm-hmm.
you know, actually playing in college is a whole another thing.
Right.
So my goal is once I step on campus in Corvallis, I want to be able to like contribute
Yeah.
to the team that I'm playing for. So that's kind of my main drive with working out and everything. But besides that, I just really like always having something to do. I feel like I've always been a very busy person. So if I have to sit around too long, it gets boring. So I like to bring in other people too to come have fun with me, like Molly or Kelsey. We always have a good time. So
It seems like you're a goal-driven person, and that first goal was getting that recognition and getting recruited. And now that there's another goal, right? You're chasing something else. So, yeah, that's interesting. Tell me about the reaction, like good, bad,
oh,
like what, like there had to be a little bit, probably a lot of positive, maybe a little negative, or a little bit like where you got that little feeling in your stomach where you're like, man, I don't know if I should have posted that. Like, tell me a little bit about the reaction.
yeah. So I mean, I posted it and then I went to bed. And then I woke up and I had 600 plus followers already.
Oh no.
A ton of comments, and then I think I had 1,000 likes. I think I'm at 1.2K right now on that specific post. 100 reposts, and I'm still getting likes and comments and like messages from parents and kids. And I actually got a message from a prior like D1 coach who said that he refollowed me because he was interested in what I had to say, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So just tons of comments, likes, people saying, thank you so much for sharing. I got a couple of people who didn't understand, I guess, what I meant when I said that my development was negatively like impacted by going to
Oh,
so many camps.
and what did you mean by that?
So basically, what I meant is every weekend I was at a camp or a tournament or something. I mean, I missed a lot of practice. So not having that time to work on myself or like hit the weight room and really work on like explosive movements or mechanics, I think really um, like didn't help me grow as a player. I do think that the camps were good to have me compete and be comfortable with talking to college coaches all the time. So by the time, um, probably like halfway through, it was like nothing, going to a camp. It was just second nature. So that part was good about it. But I do think I could have benefited from like a 2-month break every once in a while just to focus on cleaning up my mechanics or getting stronger, and then, you know, different pitches, spins, all that stuff.
Yeah. Did you start to feel like maybe your performance was being affected a little bit at some of these camps by being so burned out, or?
I mean, I felt a little burnt out, but at that point it was just normal, I guess. Now when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, well, I was pretty burnt out my junior year, sophomore year, and stuff like that. But I was competing, but I wasn't dominating. I think that's what college coaches really want to see, especially from someone my height. They can't
How tall are you?
project. I'm 5'3" and a quarter.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you have to
Yep.
say the quarter, that probably means you're pretty short.
Hey, it's all good.
But, so some people are short like me. I'm not 6 foot. I don't look like jacked, you know? So camps weren't as good for me and being noticed that way. I think social media was probably the way to go for me.
Was there anything that you learned was almost like a cheat code? You said it got easier to go to camps. Was there anything that you did to stand out or to try to stand out a little bit more?
Yeah, so with emails, I'd send one prior follow-up email. Usually, I mean, that's probably what's going to be in my next post. I would email all the time. I think by the time I was committed, I had over 1,500 emails opened by coaches,
Wow.
which is a little overboard. But I just kept on going at it because I didn't have a coach to kind of navigate coaches' levels of interest towards me. So I took any sign as a reason to go to a camp or to fly out, you know, which I think that's probably why I had such a hard time.
Yeah. I think one of the things to me that stands out in your initial post, and I think why it struck such a chord with a lot of people, and is because you mentioned camps, and from what I interpreted it from you is that camps weren't the way to go, or you feel like maybe that was something that wasn't good for you, but um, do you still feel that way? Because I feel like you you were able to grow from that, and you were able to like take something out of that, and at the end of the day, I think it's still one of the best ways to get out there and be able to engage with a coach and be able to show them that you can take some feedback and maybe adjust, and so your body can that your mind and your body work together, and you understand how you're supposed to make movements. But even more importantly, I feel like maybe the one piece that you were kind of missing was, I think camps are good. But I think you need to kind of like have somebody kick that door open a little bit, or you need to be able to like at least. And I had it put to me this way one time: you don't want to show up just cold. Like it's almost like cold calling and trying to sell something, right? You're trying to sell your services. You're trying to sell yourself. You just need that like one little hey, I'm coming to camp, and I think that would have been much easier in most cases for a lot of people. What what about like if you had to generalize it, what is the one thing you took away? Like from a camp, what is the one thing that you feel like you're like, I'm so glad I went to that camp?
Okay, so I actually wrote this down.
Okay.
The camp that I went to that you and Eli ran, I thought
Mm-hmm.
was very well put together.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So basically, what I was kind of thinking about it is you guys had already filtered through the players that you wanted to be at that camp, kind of. You know, you
Right.
invited those players, and the coaches that you brought there already respected your guys' opinions. So
Right.
already those coaches are like, okay, all these players are good. Whereas a camp with open invite, they already have to filter through 50 to 100 players, which is hard to do with 10 swings or, a scrimmage where someone plays 2 innings, So I think that is really important, where if you have a coach that has a really trusted opinion with that college coach, I think that goes a long way. So camps like that, or I went to a skills camp because I thought that I had a certain level of interest with a Power 5 school, because I actually sent them a link after I had a good interaction with them at a camp that had like multiple coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, so she clicked on the link because I looked at my YouTube views, and you can see like if there's opens or not,
Right.
So based off of that, I booked a camp and I went out there. And I knew that since it was a skills camp and not a recruiting camp, that probably wasn't the best, but it was the only one that they had.
Yeah.
And then I think a week later they had like an elite camp. So it's just like, I feel like camps are good, but you have to prioritize which camps you go to.
Right.
If that kind of makes sense.
It does. Were they all like high reach camps? Were they all like maybe within reach, but maybe kind of like top of the food chain type camps, or Was it a variety?
There was a variety for sure. I think one of my other problems too was that as a player from Arizona, I was going to a lot of California schools because it's closer to home.
Yeah.
But they can't give out of state money to you. And I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
So I think I wasted my time with those specifically.
Well, it's not that they can't give it to you. It just costs them more. You know, it's pretty much like 2 California players for every one Arizona or from wherever. So, yeah, that's something that we always try to communicate too. Is that, you know, how bad do you want to go there? And I mean, and think about it too, is that a lot of California schools, they get the bounce back kids. They get the kids that were good enough to go to a Power 5 or to a big D1 school, and then they don't really like it, or they miss California, or it wasn't what they thought, and then they go back. And so they have that luxury. It's kind of like, they're kind of like our Phoenix College. You know, Phoenix College always does really well. They have a lot of really, you know, talented players that are D1 type kids, but they go off to school, and I can think of a handful off the top of my head that have gone off to school, and then all of a sudden I see them at Phoenix College and they're killing it, and then they make a move on to a D1 or something. But yeah, that's really interesting. What else came of your posts? Like, what else in terms of, I mean, you said you got some followers. I mean, I think the last time I looked at, you had 150,000 views on that. So like, what else did you get a sense like that you were making a difference?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting it to blow up like this at all. I just thought it would be something cool to do that'll help a couple of people. You know, I wouldn't have to keep on messaging people individually, you know.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like a layout. I wasn't really expecting it to go viral, you know.
Yeah.
Almost. So, but yeah, tons of messages from parents just saying that their situation was super similar with their daughter. Lots of thank yous, lots of, you know, this really helped me narrow down like what camps I want to go to, or what I should be doing on social media. So thank you. Just all sorts of stuff like that. And they're still coming in all the time. So it's hard to keep up.
Is there anything really interesting, or a comment, or anybody that has reached out that was kind of surprising?
I would say someone reached out to me who used to be a college coach, and they had followed me in the past. Actually, it was a California school. I think it was the first college coach that was ever interested in me. And he said that he had just refollowed me because he was very interested in what I had to say. And now he's in the whole recruiting business, and he has his own site and stuff like that. So I just think it was super cool to hear back from him again. Yeah. You know, after probably a year now, you know. So I just thought that was cool that he refollowed and wanted to keep up and liked what he saw.
Was that Coach Ray?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually went back and looked at that conversation. I had a conversation with him around November of last year, and obviously your name came up a little bit. So I thought that was interesting. Did OSU reach out? Did you hear from Coach, or did any of your teammates in general, just like, hey, I saw your post, great job? Or yeah,
No,
I mean, they're probably a little too busy for that stuff, but it's
yeah, they've got their own stuff going on
for sure. So and for me, I'm sitting here going, man, like there's it's just, I can't imagine what, like, putting that out there, and then, you know, the response, and then, so like, I mean, how do you top that? Like, what now? Like, you know, you're a goals driven person, it seems like what now? Like, what are you going to do now? You got more posts ready?
I mean, yeah, I have another one either coming out tonight or tomorrow, I think, about emails. And then I just have the subjects but I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to talk about. So I think emails, building resume. What were the other ones? I think it was, I don't know, but they're all good.
Yeah.
Coming out. Have it all laid out somewhere in my room.
Yeah.
But
no, you set the bar high already. So
I know.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I feel like maybe it's a little therapeutic for you to, like, be able to put that stuff out there, and like you said, try to help some others, talk about, you had mentioned that you feel like if, people are on national teams or regional teams, what are your thoughts on that? Because, as you know, you've been in that situation. Not everybody's in that spot. Certainly you're not just saying, hey, everybody quit and go to a different team or different org, because that's probably not feasible. How can the softball community, if you could look back 3 years ago, 4 years ago, how could we help, your previous situation?
Yeah. So, okay. I think that's actually one of my other topics I'll talk about clubs and that stuff too. I think that's the last one that I have on there.
Let's leave that off then, because I don't want to give away if you don't want to talk about it.
Well, I can say a little bit.
Okay.
But basically, the team that I was on, there was only one team, so we had no players to be pulling from.
Yeah.
If you lose players, you can't pull anybody. So we had at times only 10 players.
Yeah.
Which is really hard to do. And if you are a coach with only one team and you're looking to make connections with college coaches, I feel like those college coaches are less likely to really make a connection with you, because that's only 11 players that they can look at. You know, they don't have future teams coming in. Whereas with this new team I'm on, Arizona Rising, we have tons of teams coming in, and we're setting the bar for those teams coming in right now.
Yep.
So stuff like that, I think is important. If you're on in a club organization that has multiple teams, I think that's better. But if it's just one team, I think that's probably what you should try to avoid, in regards to connections and stuff like that.
Yeah. But you stayed there for a long time. I'm quite certain that people reached out over the years, right? And so, do you have any regrets? Because here's the thing, and I always, I'm the guy too that I'm looking around on stuff, and every post out there says, the current coaching staff has no daughters on this team. I understand the message, and I understand why people say that. But to me, we were all dads at once. I had 2 daughters. I was a dad that coached his daughter. Everyone I can think of right now off the top of my head, if I go to your team, to the next team, I know that they all do. So, because at some point, do you have any regrets? Because here's honest truth. You and your group were kind of on track to set that for maybe next year and the year after, where you were at. Do you think about that? It had to be a factor a little bit when you decided to leave.
Yeah. So, obviously he was a great coach, taught us how to play the game really well, very fundamental.
Yeah. You said all that too in your post.
We
you did a great job.
How to play. Yeah. We all knew how to play really well. It was just in Tucson, you don't have a ton of players to grab from.
Right.
Versus Phoenix. So when you lose players, it's really hard to keep up with those highly competitive teams.
Yeah.
So when we got there in the summer, we had, I think, 11 players at that point, and we had lost some really good ones.
Yeah.
And at that point, you just can't keep up. I don't regret it, just because it made me who I am today. And I know how to play the game, I think, better than just game IQ and stuff like that. I feel like I'm very comfortable where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I would say for other people, I wouldn't exactly do what I did.
Got it.
Because it would be easier. But I don't mind that I took the hard way.
Yeah. It's your journey. It's you've made those memories, and who knows what you learned, and not only the recruiting piece, but the perseverance side, the keeping my head down, working side, not getting too focused on what everybody else is getting, and just keep on doing your thing. Because and I think I said this in a reply to you, one of the things that stood out to me with you is you just every time I would see videos of you, you just seem to be working, and you just seem to be doing it, because I always knew that you were a pretty good player, and I had always, heard your name, and I've seen you around a little bit, but you always did it with some humility, very humble. And And I think those things, you don't learn that going the easy way. You don't learn that, being catered to for, oh my God, you're Amelia, you're a pitcher, you throw this, let's bring you over and let's take care of you. Like you have to feel a little bit of pain. And I mean, just struggle to grow. And I don't know. I mean, I had kids when me and my wife had kids when we were young. Like I'm 51 years old and all my kids are moved out of my house for the last 5, 6, 7 years. And was it the way I would want everyone in all of my kids to do it? Heck no, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I think that's kind of what I get from you. Like, so, well, that's really interesting. You got anything else you want to put out there? Do you have anything for the listeners?
I'm trying to think.
You ready for your next tournament?
Yes, I am.
When you guys play again?
I want to say it's when my winter formal is. So
okay.
Not this weekend, but next.
Got it. So you won't be there. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I have something for you at Queen of Diamonds.
Oh, nice. So okay.
If I don't find you, then
all right.
get me and I'll bring it to you. But
cool.
Yeah.
No, look, hey, I really appreciate you jumping on. I feel like it's kind of funny when I saw you kind of putting stuff out there. It was very interesting because, like, I think your coach said it this morning, Coach Steve. It takes a village, and I feel a little bit of a part of your journey. And again, you never played for me, but like I watched you, and then I saw you post, and it was just really interesting to kind of like see where it's all gone. So I really appreciate you taking the time. The little tidbits that you put out there about, it wasn't really little, it was pretty huge. I appreciate that. It's not a story that I've shared with too many people that I don't trust. I've only shared it with a few people that I trust, and I'm pretty happy for you and really appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Well, all right. I just want to say thanks for listening. We will continue working to elevate the sport and get caught up with those who are influential in the fast pitch community. Hopefully, we can help you navigate your softball journey. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Caught Up with Randy Kaye, or at Coach KAZ. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcasts, I believe. On any of those platforms or wherever you consume your podcast. You can also follow us on X and on Instagram using the same handles at Coach KAZ. Amelia, thanks again. It was great having you. Look forward to watching you over the next however long you decide to play. Hopefully for a while.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
This one's for my wife. Could have left 1,000 times just about my side.